bread, carbs, everyone's best friend and everyone's enemy to the hips. So I'm back again with another video of German bread and bakeries because obviously I'm really enjoying this Meet the German series, and personally I love the bread and bakeries here in Germany, so I'd love to see what this video has to say. We can discuss it a bit further, do a little bit of a comparison between the States and Germany. So let's get into it.
Grain, yeast, and water. 3 key ingredients for 2 German passions. The Germans even call beer flüssiges Brot, liquid bread. Ask Germans what they miss above all else when they go abroad, and there's one answer that's sure to crop up.
Das Brot. Ich hab Brot vermisst.
Tatsächlich ist es das Brot.
I have to say, literally every German I talk to that has gone to the States for an extended period of time complains about the bread we have in the US. Like, they're just so miserable about the bread. They're like, yeah, how can it be in a plastic and those little slices? I'm like, we also have bakeries as well. But I have to say, after moving to Germany and eating the bread here, there is definitely a distinct difference. And also, the butter here tastes so good. So when you add the bread here in Germany with the butter here in Germany and you put those two together, heavenly defined, just amazing. But yeah, so from my experience living in Germany, every German I've talked to has something to say about our American bread. Oops. Let's continue.
Then that German bread has been designated an official UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. Bread is obviously a favourite staple all over the world, and plenty of countries eat more of it than the Germans. For example, in Turkey they eat twice as much. But the Germans take great pride in their specific varieties of bread. There are more than 3,000 different types on the official bread register. Rye, wheat and spelt are all very popular varieties. Then there are varieties like Schwarzbrot or Vollkornbrot. They usually come in thin, dense slices like this one. Very tasty, but very heavy. I get a lot of stick here in Germany about bread. Germans seem to think that all that Brits eat is a really bad version of what they call Toastbrot. What?
Like I said, they also really have something to say about that, about Americans, so yeah, it's not only the Brits, Americans get a lot of flack for our bread too.
This makes me pretty defensive of my country's superior sliced bread varieties. I can't deny that the Germans make a cracking loaf. So what's their secret?
Diese extreme Brotkultur und diese extreme Vielfalt gibt es nur in Deutschland. Wir Deutschen haben einfach Brot mit Kruste, mit Charakter, mit Aussagekraft, und das ist der große Unterschied. Bäcker ist ein ehrlicher Beruf, ist ein ehrliches Handwerk, weil man was mit seinen Händen herstellt, man sieht, was man gemacht hat, es ist transparent und man macht anderen Leuten eine Freude damit.
One thing I love about living in Germany is a large hearty breakfast on the weekend, including the vital ingredient of fresh bread from the bakery. Bread traditionally makes an appearance throughout.
Yeah, so I also quite enjoy a German breakfast. I mean, you usually have a variety of different breads, or they have like little Brötchen, which are like mini little breads, but in general you've got like a bunch of different rolls, and then you usually have a jam, cheese, meat, if you eat meat, veggies such as like tomatoes or lettuce. Oh god, just so good. Like, it's just a feast in the morning. So it's super amazing. But I do have to say, after living in Germany for a couple of months and eating all the bread and stuff, I really missed just the basic toast sliced bread from a plastic. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just missed it. It was like a little bit of home. And also, some of these breads have they're really crusty, so I don't appreciate my mouth being sliced up while I'm eating sometimes. So yeah, I'm also not a huge fan of that. And also, because the bread is made very fresh, it usually doesn't last very long. So you can buy it from the bakery and eat it at home, but if you have leftovers and you want to eat it the next day, normally that thing is so hard. It's like a freaking stone. You can use it as a weapon. So yeah, I'm definitely not too fond of that aspect of it, but you can use it to make things like canoodle after, once your bread is a little bit old. I've seen some people also add a little bit of water to it and put it back in the oven, and apparently that makes it softer. But I have to say, there's nothing as tasty as having a fresh roll in the morning.
Day in Germany. It's the star of the breakfast spread. Later on you might munch on a Pausenbrot or break time bread, and in the evening many families will have Abendbrot or evening bread. But over the last 10...
I have to say, Abendbrot is probably something that I like the least here. I mean, you eat bread for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You don't have to. Most Germans don't eat it for 3 meals a day. But Abendbrot is something that is traditionally German, which is sort of like just bread, and then you put some meat on it, like different varieties of meat. it's okay, but I don't know if it's my culture or just my personal preference. I need something warm and cozy in the evening, and bread is just not going to cut that for me. So if I'm at a German person's house, I'm usually not too pleased if we have to eat Abendbrot. Of course, I will, because I don't eat it very often, but I definitely prefer something warm and cozy and cuddly and nice and happy for dinner. So yeah.
Years, the Germans have become a little less loyal to their crusty staple. With demand dipping and more shoppers switching to discounter supermarkets, there's also been a decline in the number of independent craft bakeries like this one. Anyway, I'm lucky enough to have a couple of independent bakeries nearby, and my absolute favourite thing to buy is bread rolls. Pumpkin seed, poppy seed, potato, whole grain, cheese. There are so many varieties. Here in Cologne, bread rolls are known as Brötchen, which literally means little bread. And that's the term pretty much anywhere north-ish, except in Hamburg, where you might hear Rundstück, or Berlin, where it's Schrippe. In Munich and the southeast, it's a Semmel. It's generally a...
Now tell me how confusing that is as a foreigner in Germany trying to learn German. Sorry, I just had a moment. But yeah, so when I moved to Munich for a couple of months, this was, I think, after about a year of being in Germany, I was just at that point starting to get into learning German. And I remember I had learned it as Semmel, and then one of my friends came to visit me, and we were both studying in the west of Germany. So he came down to the south to visit me in Munich, and then we were ordering, I don't even know what, maybe a Leberkäse. I'll put a picture of it somewhere here. But yeah, a Leberkäse with a bread, which is usually really cheap, maximum like €2 you'll pay. And I said, Semmel. And then he looks at me, he goes, oh God, the Southerners have gotten to you. And kind of like in the States, actually, you know how us from like the northeastern area tend to make fun of people from the South or kind of make jokes about it. It's kind of similar here in Germany as well. Everyone always has something to say about the poor Bavarians, the Southern Germans. So there's usually jokes, stereotypes. It's like us making fun of like cowboys, for example. Very, very similar. But yeah, so I said Semmel, and apparently they had gotten to me.
In the southwest, but a Vekla in Swabia. Oh, and depending on where you are in Franconia, you might hear Kipfel, Vegla, or Labla. I have a theory that Germany's trying to test its newcomers by making its delicious baked goods as difficult as possible to order.
Yep.
Bread roll varieties are some of the hardest words in the German language to pronounce. I remember trying to pluck up the courage to go on a solo bakery trip when I was fairly new here. As I approached the counter, I would frantically scan the little labels to find some words I could actually say.
I swear, sometimes I'm literally just pointing and I'm like, diese bitte, like this one please. Or like I just kind of walk with her and then I just start pointing because my poor little American English speaking tongue can't handle some of these words. I can't pronounce them properly. And I get very flustered very often when I try to say something and then they're like, wie bitte? Wie bitte? Which means like, please, coming in. Or like, especially now with Corona, we always have like a plexiglass in front and then they have a mask and I have a mask. And I never realized how much I depend on being able to read lips in order to speak to people. So now that I can't read lips and you've got the plexiglass and she's got a mask, neither one of us can hear each other and it's a struggle. So normally at a bakery at this point, I'm just pointing and saying, this one please.
I'd get to the front and... ich hätte gerne vor rechts? Nee. Most of the time I'd end up walking away with a bag full of so-called normale Brötchen. They're perfectly fine, but trust me, keep practicing the word Kürbiskernbrötchen and it'll be worth your while.
Kürbiskernbrötchen, which is pumpkin seed bread roll in German.
Have you got room for a little more Meet the Germans in your life? Then head over to Instagram and give us a follow.
Alrighty, so that is my impression of Germany. The bread, I guess they really touched upon heavily. They didn't say so much about the bakeries, but typically when you do go into these bakeries in Germany, you do have all the variety of bread in one area. Then right next to it, you also have like all of the sweets and cakes and pastries and everything your little heart can desire and those calorie bombs that you just love to have. So yeah, this was the video on German bread and bakeries. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I don't know, write it in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe and I'll be back probably with another video because for some reason I'm really enjoying the series. If you guys have any comments about how bread or bakeries are in your country, I would love to hear about it, to be honest, because that's something I find very fascinating. So anyway, have a lovely day. I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye!